stupid cancer comp or whatever we're calling it in my pub games recently. So like if you're playing Zenyatta without a Symmetra, you still have 150 HP. Having Discord on your like target, whether it be like a Tracer or a Genji or something like that, it really makes a difference in your survivability because it means that you can't just get like one clipped in the back of the head by a Tracer which is coming up behind you.
I think the stream is still offline, unfortunately. Wait, no, just flooded.
Okay.
All right.
False alarm.
Good timing on that one.
Okay, it's up. Okay. Making sure.
Yeah, that's my thought process on it is like without the Symmetra, like extra 50 HP bringing him to 100 or 200, it's so easy to just get flanked and not be able to know what's going on, especially in a pub game where you might not have as much communication with your team and like call out somewhere people are. So being able to like see where that person is really helps with that. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe like the change that would probably do really well would be to give it some sort of like maximum amount of time that it could be on the target. So like maybe Discord only lasts on someone for 10 seconds. Then like you either have to reapply it or like...
Yeah, that's a good change. Actually, I like that one where you have to reapply
Something
it.
like that.
Yeah, that'd be a lot better.
And it would save, you know, like Tracer in that case wouldn't have to use her E cooldown. What's her E cooldown? Like 12 seconds or something like that?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to use a massive cooldown like that in order to get rid of a Discord orb. You could just wait it out for the 10 seconds it's going to be on you and then try to flank again when you're not being seen. But I think that that's a huge part of Zenyatta's survivability is be able to see where someone is when they're discorded to either save himself or save someone on his team.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, continuing on with the patch, Mei got a buff to her endothermic blaster. So I guess let's see, the speed of it's 50% now. The fire rates increased too, but I guess the ammunition cost is a little bit less, or a little bit less than it used to be. So overall, just an upgrade to her right click, which from my experience is kind of crazy now. I'm getting sniped by Mei all the time now. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing that on ladder. What do you guys think of the change?
What's the point of left click update?
Yeah, right.
Just right click all the time.
Exactly.
There's so many times you're just walking around a corner and you get headshot by a random bicycle that's just spammed. Like they're not even aiming. It's like worse than Hanzo because it's even faster.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I mean,
scatter
at least,
arrows are probably still the most annoying thing in the game.
When in doubt, scatter shot is a little bit different than when in doubt, just hold right click on this area and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because at least scatter shot has a cooldown.
It probably doesn't help anything that right before they made this change, they also reduced the cost of her right click. So one patch they reduced the cost, and then the next patch they made her projectile speed. I think it was Zan that was in the Discord yesterday said that her projectile speed on her right click is the fastest in the whole game.
I believe it.
And it goes straight.
Yeah.
There's no fall.
And it does like 150 or 175
Yeah.
or something like that headshot. Like
150,
what?
I think, because it can one-shot Tracer, Genji, and Zenyatta with no shield.
Many times.
The amount of times that's not happened. The amount of times that's happened to me is
exactly. And the
sad.
And then the replays, it's like she's so far away too, and she just snipes Zenyatta. It's so
she's
crazy.
The new Widowmaker and the new McCree and the new Hanzo all in one.
Yeah, I think closest is probably what McCree used to be. You know, like in the early days. But yeah, I think she's gonna need some kind of change. It's cool seeing her more. I still feel like Mei is one of the most dynamic characters that might not be being played that much in competitive. And I know FishStix, you play a ton of Mei, so
especially now.
Especially now.
Yeah. Just to play devil's advocate, I don't disagree with you guys, but it's not like we're seeing Mei dominate the competitive meta. It's not like even when you're in pubs and pre-mades with friends, it's not like you see a Mei like completely destroying everyone. I mean, the one thing I do not like about her now is that you can just spam her right click through doorways and get a lot of lucky headshots, and that's not exactly super fun to play against. But at the same time, she's still not like crazy OP or anything, right?
No, I never said she was OP.
It's weird they did the like opposite. So like when we were talking about Mei before, the one suggestion I made had been to increase the cone size of her left click. And I had always put so much emphasis on like, oh, if they ever buff Mei, they should do this with her left click or this with her left click, or maybe they should try this with their left click. And it's like, let's just buff this shit on a right click and see what happens. Like literally the exact opposite. of everything I had ever suggested. So I was like,
Right.
okay, we'll see how this goes.
I said something about like her shift as well as healing her, doing a little bit of damage and freezing at the same time, so she can still
Wow.
get into people and freeze them. And then if she's
Suicidal
in,
May bombs.
well, yeah, because so she can left click and freeze people, and then when she gets in trouble, she shifts, and then people have to play around that instead of just being like, all right, well, wait till the ice cool's gone and then kill her again.
Yeah, they're
So
like
if
punching
there's-
the ice, like waiting
Yeah.
for her to.
Let's wait for this to melt. So instead of just people waiting and then ignoring her while she's in that, if there's a little area around that they still get a little bit frozen or a little bit damaged, then they still have to worry about her. So then she can still be that frontliner.
It would be hilarious if they made it so that while
good.
she was in like an ice cube, if you hit her, any damage was like returned back to you, or like it was like a thorns kind of thing where
You
you
got
got hit
Genji
back.
Maid reflect.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh!
Genji
Oh
May
man,
reflect.
that would be ridiculous. Oh, that and you don't even have to aim, I guess. If
You
that
just
was the
see
case,
if people
right?
shoot you.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to agree with you, Chris. Though I like seeing more May being played.
Yeah,
That's I don't think they did all. I agree with everyone. I agree with Shade that the left click is really what needed the love, not the right click. But the fact that she's being played more is good in my opinion.
yeah, definitely. I want to see more ice walls. More ice walls and sure for
Ice walls are hype. Ice walls
Yeah.
are fun.
Totally. I mean, I think there's still a lot of potential in that ability. And then Surefour, you and I were talking a little bit before the show about just the stopwatch. We saw one of the teams go double May on one of the objective points, like defending, just to carry just to have the timer just go a little bit longer and things like that, right? So it'd be cool to see some more of that type of play, just that kind of dynamic play with a character like May. Okay, well, why don't we move on? And wanted to talk about Jeff Kaplan. He's always commenting, which is awesome on the forums. But he recently commented on matchmaking, and that's always been a big topic with the community and people talking about or questioning like the matchmaking doesn't seem too great right now, just because I get matched up with some crappy players sometimes, and then sometimes I get matched up with like a lot of like great players or players out of my skill range. So he actually wrote in this really interesting post a little bit of, I guess, a thought process behind designing the matchmaking. And one of the things that stood out to me that he mentioned was not having the players lose too many times in a row, because psychologically it just feels really bad. So he does mention that after a player's lost like X number of games in a row, they'll purposely match them up against somebody that's probably outside their MMR, lower than their MMR, and just have them have a good chance of winning. And I guess more from the standpoint of retention, keeping these guys playing in that session and just playing the Overwatch just generally. Doesn't do it for the opposite, where you're winning too many games and they just force you to lose type of thing, but definitely for the prior. I thought that was cool. I mean, I didn't really think of match. I always thought matchmaking is a very straightforward thing. Just match me up against whoever's in my MMR, and that's it, right? That's how I think we should do it. But I wanted to see what you guys thought of just this whole post that he made, and is this the type of, I guess, thoughts that we want to see from a person designing the matchmaking?
It's like matchmaking is weird because like I think it's the hardest thing, like Jeff Kaplan is trying to say, that like make, because a lot of people have different ideas about how it should be. And since the population in the game is small right now, it's also even harder, because if you make it too hard on people, the top end players are just going to be waiting forever, and if you make it too lenient, people are just going to get stomped. But I think it's fine for them to do that lost stuff in quick matches and stuff, because it doesn't really matter. But in ranked play, I don't think they should do that, because it's also going to be
purpose. Yeah,
it would defeat the purpose of ranking and whatnot. But it's also going to be weird because solo queue in this game is going to be even harder to matchmake around, because it's a really, really team oriented game. And I don't think, because in Counter-Strike you can kind of carry your team with just your aim alone, but in this game the matchmaking is kind of like League of Legends, where if you get people that are bad on the role, they're going to play, or people that just won't agree with your team's kind of going to lose no matter what. So solo queue is like a really weird thing to balance around.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. FishStix, any thoughts on that?
No, I just as always, I appreciate the transparency from Jeff. Um, I love that he signed the post, Jeffrey. It's very, it's very endearing. It's very endearing. So my love for Jeff Kaplan continues. But no, I mean, honestly, like a lot of people like to get really spun up about matchmaking in general and like ranked matchmaking, this and that. I think as long as they're continually looking at data and trying to improve it over time, that's great, and the transparency is definitely appreciated. So I don't have a bunch of super strong opinions about matchmaking, to be quite honest.
Okay, Shayed.
I'd say my concerns are pretty similar to Surefour in that I don't know, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to make a working matchmaking or even a rank system where it's going to be kind of fair to every player involved. It's going to be one of those situations where you risk like a loss and probably being super tilted just by queuing for a ranked or matchmaking of any kind, because odds are there's going to be at least one person on your team that is going to mess something up or do something wrong, and you're just going to be like, oh man, if only I had someone else. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know. It's going to be ranked in this game is going to be extremely interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Jeff said, everyone likes to win, but nobody likes to lose.
Exactly. Okay, another thing Jeff Kaplan mentioned, Shayed, I know you pointed out or put here in the notes, is that they're removing final blows and replacing it with healing done in the score page, the final score page. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, or I know you have some opinions on that.
Yeah, I haven't figured out yet if he's talking about doing it for literally everyone or if he's talking about doing it for just supports.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've heard, it's for everyone, which I don't think is the right choice whatsoever. If you look at games like, even if you look at TF2, they have stat screens that they can bring up on all of their games that are just like pages and pages long, like an insane amount of stats. And I don't think you could ever have enough stats for a game. So to just be like, oh, we're going to remove something like final blows, that's something that people actually really care about for the most part. Like, oh man, I'm gold in final blows right now. Or like, I have 42 final blows. Like, it's just, that's something that people like to brag about. It's, something people are going to miss a lot, I think, and people should actually probably care about a little bit more if they want to see it stick around, because from the sounds of things, they're just going to replace it with healing done. And if you're a character that, doesn't do healing at all, that's just going to be kind of an empty card spot for you, I guess. For supports, it's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'll actually be able to see numbers.
Why not just
that's
have?
Gonna be nice,
why not just have custom score screens for each type of player or each type of character? There's always going to be a case where healing done doesn't apply, and there's always going to be a case where final blows doesn't apply, right? So I don't see why they don't do that, because we're the only ones that see that score screen anyways. It's not like everybody is seeing it. It's just that individual character or player. So they should definitely consider that. You happy with?
Totally.
Yeah, you guys happy with the score? Surefour, are you happy with the score screen right now, or just I guess the way it is?
I guess it's fine. I don't really.
He doesn't care as long as the team wins.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think their whole philosophy is they want everyone to be happy, so they want the supports to be happy and the damage to be happy. That's why they didn't want to ever introduce the whole, once you press tab, you can see how many kills anyone has gotten or how many damage this person has gotten or how many deaths this guy has. So they're just trying to go around that philosophy, I guess.
Yeah.
What's always bothered me the most about the end of game score screens was that, like, if I'm playing someone like Mercy, then I just don't ever see anything. Like, it's just all zeros across the board. It doesn't matter. But that's a little bit different, I guess, for like Zenyatta and Lucio, because you still have a little bit of killing potential. But for Mercy, it's literally just zeros, like across the whole thing. So in that sense, like, okay, I'm happy. I'm gonna have like at least one number there now. But at the same time, I'd rather not sacrifice like other people being mad all the time, like, oh man, I don't get any healing done. I don't know why I have to see this here. Like, they're going to be in the same situation that I was, where it's like, oh, like, I don't know why I have to see all of these things that like don't affect me,
right?
In a spot that doesn't matter, where you could replace that with like healing done or damage boosted or something like that, or time discorded
Assists.
or something like
Assists.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Assists, yeah. Well, I mean, they should fix eliminations so that eliminations count
Right.
as assists. But
Right. No, agree. Definitely agree with that. One of the other changes that we saw with the patch was a slight change to the aesthetics of the score screen, as well as like the cards and just little things, even the levels. You see that orange box now, right, with the levels. And
Yep.
for me, it was actually a regression in that. I don't know why they did it. I'm just showing a tweet actually from Wheat. Wheat actually took a screenshot of some of these things, and yeah, I mean, I hope a lot of this stuff gets cleaned up. But the medals kind of being this animated kind of thing is kind of cool, I guess. But there are a lot of like overlaps and things like that that really surprised me. I thought everything was fine actually, and they made these changes to the layout that I think were interesting. You guys know what I'm talking about, like little
yeah,
imperfections
Yeah.
there.
like
Yeah.
levels
I know.
go over in
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
name,
Okay.
profile name,
So
or
I,
whatever. Yeah.
I sit next to DJ Weed at the
Yeah,
office.
exactly. I'm sure Marcus is like
And
annoyed as
he
hell.
went on a rant about this
I
as
totally
he
there.
likes to do. And I don't know. I don't think we should read too much into it. We really don't know what's happening on the
Yeah.
back end. It could have just been an error in integers put in for like the UI elements. Marcus had an interesting theory that has something to do with the console versions.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true. It's not really worth speculating too much. It's
Hmm.
an interesting hypothesis that this might be like some sort of version that's like closer to whatever's going to be put out on console, and there was just an error or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It's
okay.
kind of annoying, but whatever.
That would at least
fixed. I
explain
know. I'm
it.
sure it will.
That would at least
Yeah.
explain some reasoning behind it, because it literally out of nowhere. It was just kind of like, why'd you make these changes? I mean, they were totally fine, and it was cleaner before. So okay,
It's
maybe
kind of like
it
their
was the
balance
console.
changes. They might just be testing random stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, testing ugly boxes. Okay, cool. But okay, all right. Well, let's move on to competitive talk, or at least competitive events and what's going on there. I know that's like
FishStix is just like
FishStix has been waiting. It's like, just get this crap over with. It's like, let's
I don't
stop
care
talking
about
about this
UI.
crap.
What's
Exactly.
going on?
Let's talk about the competitive. And of course, we have Surefour here, who's one of the top players too. But yeah, let's get a rundown of the events this past week, FishStix, if you don't mind.
Sure. Moral of the story is IDDQD continued to smash everybody, taking first in both GGEU and GGNA tournaments. And I think it's somewhat significant to mention that these are probably the most stacked tournaments we've had so far in the game, in my opinion. Especially the NA tournament. We saw a bunch of talent emerge from the NA scene, which is really cool and interesting. But IDDQD did take the GGEU tournament 3-1 over Flat Earth, and then GGNA 3-0 over Cloud9.
Mhm.
And over in the ESL Community Cup, we had Flat Earth take a win, although we did not have Reunited GG or IDDQD or a lot of the other European teams in that tournament. But yeah, IDDQD just continues to show their utter dominance in the scene. And we've talked about this in private chats and all this, and Surefour and Shayed, I know you guys watch a lot of scrims, participate in a lot of scrims, but I think the bottom line is right now IDDQD are just taking this game so incredibly seriously, scrimming for hours and hours and hours every single day. But I'd love to turn it over to Surefour to get your opinion on, what do you think is really the secret sauce for this team right now? Is it individual skill? Is it the time they're putting in? Is it the team comps? Are they ahead of the meta? Do you think other teams are going to be able to get on a similar level soon, or maybe you don't think they're as far ahead as I do? Maybe. So I don't know. Just what do you think about their dominance so far?
Well, they definitely have a lot of teamwork, and their support players are definitely really good. Internet Hulk is really, really good at Symmetra, and I think a lot of their strength this week was in the meta. They had two really good Genji players, and their Zenyatas were able to do the work as well. And as I said, Internet Hulk is really good at Symmetra, so he was able to protect that backline too. So last week we went 3-2 with them, but that was with Temu, and I think Temu is a lot safer player than Mendo when Mendo's McCree. So I think if teams capitalize on Mendo's risky plays a lot, you can pick him off. But I think, as you saw, I think on every offense attack, that IDDQD did. They did the double Genji strat, and I think they're just really good at that. And a lot of teams aren't as good as their defense on handling those double Genji or Tracer strats, because I think IDDQD's Zenyatta's always know that they have to discord the Genji to get him out of the fight and not let him do what he wants. So as soon as you get a discord on a Genji, you can handle him pretty well. But I think IDDQD did really good with that strategy and defending against that strategy, so it helped them pull through a lot in this week.
How far
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
how close do you think you guys are from beating IDDQD, or just consistently, or being able to, I guess, beat them in one of these big events or one of these weekly events?
Like, do you mean on like a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, or just yeah.
I think if we just get a bit more practice in,
Mhm.
we could probably beat them or come close again. But I think on a scale of 1 to 10, we're at around like a 6 right now, something like that. But a lot of it has to do with that double Genji meta, and I think we're beginning to figure out how to go against it, but we'll see if they even change that in the recent balance changes or not.
Mm-hmm.
Please just
Yeah,
give
well,
Genji his HP back and just do something else. I don't even care at this point. Like,
Give him more HP.
my God.
Oh my
just
God.
give him back his HP
Oh,
and just do
no.
something else.
well, yeah, that's a good natural transition. I mean, we can talk a little bit about. I would like to talk a little bit about the results of the tournaments and some of the teams we saw, but
Yeah.
since we're on the topic, let's do a dive into the meta. So, for those of you, if you didn't catch the tournaments this week, we saw a somewhat new composition take form. I had been hearing about this composition for a couple of weeks, but I think this is really the first time we saw it played in tournaments. And it was played a lot by Mixup, by Envy, by Cloud9, by IDDQD. Basically, all the top teams in this tournament tried this new composition, and that composition is two Genjis, potentially sometimes throwing in a Tracer in the mix, two Zenyatas, Symmetra, and Lucio. So basically, four support, super powering two Genjis. And this caught me by surprise. I'll be honest. I mean, I'd heard about the meta. I didn't think it would work quite as well as it did, especially because Genji only has 150 HP with Symmetra 200 HP. So it seems like you should be able to just power down a Genji if your team focuses on him. But yeah, I mean, Surefour, why do you think that this composition is so powerful right now? And you did also mention that you think that you're finding some ways to combat it. So maybe we just don't know how to fight it yet. But I'll turn the table to you.
Am I allowed to swear?
Yes, you can
All right,
swear.
do it.
It's okay.
It was funny because when we first tried this in a scrim against Mixup, one of my teammates was like, "Hey, why don't we just run two Zenyatta Symmetra for the Genji and let's do it?" And I was like, and like a Tracer Genji, and I was like, that sounds pretty shit. And then we did it, and we beat Mixup in like 3 minutes. And then we were like, wow, that really worked. And then Mixup started using it like all the time, and we were like, wow, we were just doing that as a joke. But like the whole strength of it is you have the Tracer and Genji, or the Genji just spamming and going from behind. So they have to deal with their behind with the Genji Tracer, and they have to focus them instantly or nothing's happening. Then you also have the Zenyatas just raining hell with their Discord orbs and 20 ammunition balls
Balls.
that can one-shot you if you're in the wrong place. So if you get two Discord orbs on people and the Genjis get like one kill, then it's a snowball, because then they get the dash resets and the melees and the shurikens up close, and then they're just going everywhere. So unless you're able to focus down the Genjis perfectly and have a McCree that has 100% accuracy, or another Genji that doesn't happen to get discorded and killed themselves, it's really hard to deal with. And if you rush the Zenyatas, the Lucio on their team can just speed boost backwards and the Genjis can go behind you unless you play it right. And then I think the thing that makes the comp the hardest to play against is you're focusing on deathballing as your team on defense to deal with the Genjis not picking anyone off. But as soon as the Symmetra gets a teleporter, they can just make risky plays. And as soon as they get a pick, even if they die, it's beneficial for them, because the enemy team has to run back and you're just teleported in, already going and harassing again. So it's really, really, really snowbally, and it's really hard to deal with once the ball gets rolling. But to fight it, if you're able to play perfectly and never get picked off, that's the only way to really defend against the comp like IDDQD does. They just focus the Genjis correctly, don't get picked off, and your Hulk puts up his turrets correctly around his teleporter and it's in his backline. If a Tracer or Genji goes behind, they'll have someone peel off to go deal with him and try and annoy him. And the way they do it is sometimes their Genjis don't get discorded and then they'll get a pick and then the snowball happens.
I remember the first time you guys ran that, I was watching. I'm pretty sure it was like Numbani, I think.
It was Dorado.
Was it Dorado?
Yeah.
I remember seeing it and I was just like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's working really well.
Yep.
And I was just so sad. I was just watching going, this is going to be terrible.
Yep.
All right. I have to ask though. Is it any worse than the double Lucio double?
Way worse.
Way
It's
worse.
way worse?
Yeah.
It feels like it's
yeah.
way worse. Yeah.
I don't know. Like just seeing Winston Bubbles constantly was not that fun
Yeah,
either.
but at least with Winston Bubbles, you're like, oh, okay, he put his Winston bubble down, so we'll just
wait
either
it out.
burn it
Yeah,
or
just break
play
it.
back and then go in. This comp, it's like, all right, we're getting spam down to shit. All right, so we can't really stop the spam. We kind of have to wait until we kill someone or we die. And then if we die, they have ults now, and we're pretty much fucked. And half the time, it was like our first match against IDDQD. I think we could have won that match if we didn't get wrecked by spawns. Because I think if anyone was watching the tournament, we died on second point Gibraltar, and then 2 people spawned on that point, and then 2 other people spawned in the back. So on the second point spawn, you're like in
That's
that
rough.
little cave. So you get picked off. Then the other people are back there. They have to wait for you. Then the Genjis push in. They get picked off. So then it's just a bunch of waiting. And then by the time we regroup, we're at third point. And then, as you could see in the tournament, one of the really good ways to counter that comp is just to mirror it. So it's like all you have is this comp for the most
Well, it's
part.
just a skill thing at that point. It's like, okay, like, who's better Genji? Like, which one can outbe the other one?
Who
Right.
can get discorded better, who can
Yeah.
spam better, which Symmetra will do what. It's just really weird.
That doesn't
I
sound
think,
too fun, too.
nah. And I think Envious actually went for the double May as a counter rather than an actual time waster, because they used it in a scrim against us prior on Numbani. But it's like, even if you run double May, the Genjis will just play a lot safer and just wait for discords and then just spam you down until they can go in, instead of just going in anyways.
All right, so I guess without a nerf, is there possibilities? It sounds like you might have something brewing to counter it. Is it along the lines of totally different comps, or like you were saying, just doing just doing it better than what your opponent's doing?
Our little counter thing is kind of a similar comp.
Okay.
But it's
Double
like,
offensive Torbjorn.
No.
Yeah,
It's
I
more
saw
a
you. You guys
defense
tried
comp.
Hanzo, right? A little bit of
It's
Hanzo.
like Hanzo's hit or miss, because it's like
That about sums it up. So
you're kind
Horrible,
of
yes.
you're kind of relying on either the scatter shot one-shotting them or your arrow hitting them in the head if they don't deflect it, and blah yada yada.
yeah.
But right now, the only counter to it is either perfect play on defense or kind of running a similar comp against it.
Yeah, and the latter seems more consistent than being completely perfect every single game.
Yep.
I have to ask: have you guys tried using Junkrat at all in this against this comp?
Well, it's like Junkrat's weird because unless the Genjis are discorded and then run at the Junkrat, they're just gonna spam them down.
Yeah, from further away. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Can totally see that.
Fair enough.
Can always go 6 Torbjorns, man. We saw that.
And plus-
we saw that this weekend once.
With, I think I'm not that good at Junkrat, and Pluppy's good at Junkrat, so that's
Yeah.
also might be a thing.
All right, so let's talk about how this should be fixed. I guess Blizzard has been very actively patching OP comps. We've seen it several times now in the short closed beta phase of Overwatch, where Blizzard will come in and make patches that directly address some of these big issues, some things that seem to be kind of dominating the competitive scene. What do you think Blizzard should do? And we've talked about Genji a lot. We've talked about Zenyatta a lot. What do you think the solution is to this?
Well, if you want to nerf health pools, then you might want to take away Symmetra's shield, giving you 50 health. Because then that's just creating them at their problem level again. Or there's the whole popular thing about one hero limits, because I did an article with Bloodsire about that. A lot of people don't like that, but I think one hero limits would be the easiest way to balance the game, because I don't think the Winston shield nerf would have ever happened without the double Reaper, double Winston, or just double Winston comps in general.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And you can either nerf Harmony Orb or Discord Orb, or just nerf Zenyatta's damage in general.
You can always make Symmetra's shield give 25 HP instead of 50.
Something like that. 50's, it just brings them to their problem level again, where they're like, alright, we'll nerf Genji to 150. Oh,
Yeah.
he's back at 200 again.
I mean, when they nerfed Mercy's damage boost, they brought it from like 50 to 30, I think. So that might be my suggestion for Zenyatta, first of all, since I know everyone is like hating on Discord Orb right now, would be to make it only last for a certain period of time on a target, and then for it to have to be reapplied afterwards. And also for maybe the percentage damage that, you know, the target takes to go down from 50 to like 35 or 40 maybe.
Yeah.
There's also a good suggestion someone made in my chat when I was streaming yesterday. They said something like Harmony Orb, it could stay at the same healing rate, but if they're taking damage, the healing won't take into effect. So like say...
Oh, there's an idle period, you mean?
Yeah, so like you have to be out of combat for 1 or 2 seconds until you actually get the healing. So instead of just being like in this fray for however long, getting healed while you're doing it, you actually have to back out to get the healing, instead of just being this god tank thing that's doing damage at the same time.
Yeah, which requires like no skill either. You just throw a ball on somebody, right? And at least with the other characters, you got to be close or actually have a target on them with Mercy. So yeah, I think that would be good too, or at least
Hero limits are never the answer.
That's last resort. So
it's like if months, like I said before, if months and months from now we are still having this problem and Blizzard has tried their hardest to change it, or they haven't done literally anything to change it, then talk about hero limits. But until then, it's not our job to do that. It's our job to test the game, to tell Blizzard what's wrong, and to wait for them to fix it.
Well, my personal belief is I don't care if there's hero limits, and I don't care if there's not hero limits. I'll just play the game and try and be the best as is. But my belief, I'm not saying there should be hero limits, but I think the easiest way to be able to balance the game would be if there is hero limits, because with all the variables there are without hero limits, if you end up nerfing double comps, you end up nerfing the single hero more so than a double comp. Kind of like Winston. Winston isn't used nearly as much because of the shield nerf when they were nerfing it for double Winston.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I totally get it. I totally understand what you mean.
Still do see Winston, but not all the time.
As much.
He's not a mandatory thing anymore, but he's still playable. Like,
I mean,
playable,
I think,
but he's really kind of bad with the shield he's at now. If he jumps in, he can't really initiate as much as he did before, because as soon as his shield goes in, it's kind of instantly dead. And Winston is really, really vulnerable without his shield.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big problems with this comp is, you know, Genji's very good at range, very good close up. He really has no weakness. But the reason I feel like we're seeing so few tanks right now is it's more Zenyatta, isn't it? Because the Discord makes tanks just disappear so quickly, and you know, obviously Zenyatta and DPS characters, especially Genji and Tracer, is a great combo. But Zenyatta also diminishes the effectiveness of tanks so much that we are rarely seeing 2 tanks, rarely even seeing 1 tank, at least on attack right now. Am I off on that one? That was just like my own kind of personal hypothesis there.
Well, I've been saying it before Genji even got nerfed. Genji isn't even the problem. It's Zenyatta that's the problem. Yeah. If there's a Genji as he is now, without a Harmony Orb going behind your team, you can deal with him no problem. The McCree just has to hit him a couple times, or he just has to get put on by a monkey. But as soon as there are Harmony Orb on Genji, he's just a whole different hero at that point. He can just play more reckless, do whatever he wants. At least with Tracer, she can still manage by herself without a Harmony Orb. But with a Harmony Orb, Tracer is even more of a problem because she can blink away, rewind, get back to full health, go back in her ass and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then their whole comes back to this point of where, well, we'll just kill the Zenyatta's. Well, you try and go on the Zenyatta, you get Discord Orb killed by him, by himself.
That's the worst.
So it's like, well, that's a really good support hero. He's healing a guy and killing you. Cool.
That's Ben's dream right there, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd
Pretty
agree
much.
with that. I'd agree. Yeah, I think the change that Shade's suggesting would fix a lot of those things right there. I mean, you'd get one shot at it with the orbs, but then having to reapply the Harmony Orb constantly is much tougher, right? I mean, your Genji's gonna have to come back to you every once in a while, and not just like basically sitting in the back line the whole time, just harassing and spamming.
Yep.
Honestly, I just think literally a straight up numerical nerf to Zen's orbs, both orbs, could just do a lot of good here. Usually people always go, oh, all you did was change the numbers. What a lazy patch. But I think in this case, it actually would just make sense. Like,
That's
just
how you
Discord
balance.
and Harmony are
change
just a
the
little bit
numbers.
too good. Yep.
You think it's just a little too good, or you think? I mean, because if you change it too much, because the numerical thing is it's one of those things where there's a cliff to it. I think if you
don't find the sweet spot, it's too good still, or it's too bad.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think when you do lower it, it's kind of similar to what you were saying about Winston's shield. It's that type of change, which I don't know. I don't really love that as much as something that requires like a different. The change would require more skill or require a different type of setup to actually gain the value that you get currently just by default. I tend to at least favor that type of change, at least early on. But one thing we didn't talk about yet, guys, is that we have Surefour on here, and and they got picked up by Cloud9 since the last time we talked. So I mean, that's huge news. Obviously Team Envious was picked up as the first big team, honestly, to pick up an Overwatch team, and now Cloud9 is, and I feel like it's an influx of a lot of these bigger teams really taking a look at Overwatch. So I kind of wanted to ask you about what made you guys decide on Cloud9. I know a lot of people were talking to you guys and maybe even possibly bidding on you guys. So if you don't mind, like maybe sharing just how that whole process was and why you decided on Cloud9.
There was a lot of smaller orgs that were going us, but they were the first big orb that came to us. And of course Cloud9 is a great organization and has a lot of reputation, so we kind of just went with it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Was there any thoughts of just like hanging out or just staying independent for a while, or like your intentions were always to join a big team?
We always wanted to get a sponsor. It's always good to have.
All right, cool.
I mean, I like it. Look, Cloud9, they've been early adopters in a lot of different scenes. They picked up Mango, he was as one of the first major Smash players. Like they're in so many different games. I thought they'd be one of the early adopters, and they ended up being an early adopter. So shout outs to the Cloud9 staff. It's awesome. And man, it's a little bit crazy though how many big teams are entering the space so quickly right now. And I won't give out any rumors, but there are more coming, guys. This is just
the
we're
beginning.
only in the closed beta now, and within the course of 1 month, we have Envy and Cloud9 in the space, and yeah, it is just the beginning.
Don't say too much. The Reddit people are gonna get mad.
Oh man, yeah, I agree with you there, FishStix. It's interesting too, just the decisions to be made, because on both parties you can kind of see why see why teams would be joining these big organizations as well as organizations picking up teams. But at the same time, it's like beta, right? Like we still have very limited viewers, to be honest, just in the Overwatch space, just because the game hasn't out, right? So I mean, the number of players and viewers are probably going to go up by 20, 30, 40 folds, and you'd think that maybe I guess everybody would wait until like that period before it happens, but it looks like people are getting on early, and maybe just a little shorter contracts than I guess typical ones that you would see in esports.
Yeah, things are moving fast and furious. It's an exciting time to be following the scene, and I'm certainly, it just puts the fire under a lot of other teams to get involved, and it makes me glad that that we're doing this stuff in the closed beta, because getting these teams interested in Overwatch, getting them ready to start thinking about Overwatch as soon as the game comes out. We're only a little ways away. I think it's good for the health of the scene for sure.
Then we'll see if the Reddit people are right, where the top teams will just fall under
Look,
all the other...
another. I have something to say on that point. Reddit is not wrong. Reddit is not wrong. There will be some breakthrough talent that
Of course.
explodes once the game is launched. I still think you're going to see the same teams at the top, but they might be able to, fill holes in their rosters over time. Like, teams switch rosters constantly. Look at CSGO, look at any team-based game. Teams switch up their rosters all the time, especially FPS for some reason. So there's definitely going to be some stars that shine through once the game comes out, and they're going to fill a lot of holes on rosters, I think.
I'm curious to see how new players and new teams will form, because, with, like you said, there's a lot of teams that are going to be signed with big organizations. They're going to be trying to fill spots. They're probably going to get the pick, to pick the cream of the crop, out of these solo players, right? So it'll be interesting to see how some teams are able to, kind of build up. One of the things that you were mentioning, FishStix, is that, Prime and the Life of Hanzo had some breakout performances this week. And we've been kind of seeing that. And not too long ago, Surefour, Google Me was in that same position, like, at least from the standpoint of what the community was feeling, like maybe 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. And you guys just rose, like, really, really quickly through the ranks, back when it was just like Envious and Mix-Up or Not Anything at the time, and that, just those type of teams, and even Melty at the time, right? So, you guys have ascended that in just the matter of like a month. So I guess we're seeing some more teams doing that. It'll be much harder for teams, I feel like, to do that in the near future, or just the future. And is there even facility for players to get together? I know we have Discords, and we have some Discords that are just general Overwatch, but I don't think like a lot of pugs are being started in a lot of those Discords. I could be wrong. I don't know. Shayed, are a lot of pugs being...
that I know of.
Yeah, right. Am I missing a bunch, or is it just mainly just teams and mostly the same circles that are circle of players and teams that are essentially practicing and just playing, any kind of custom games?
I haven't really seen that many pug games being put together recently. So, or at all, to be totally honest with you. It tends to just be like, if you see someone in game that you like to play with, you add them to your friends list, and then you play with them. So, I haven't really seen any like 12-man pug games or anything like organized happening. So
that's one thing we'll probably need to take a look at. Just like having some kind
I know, that's one of
FishStix's
biggest complaints is he's like, I want pug games.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not good enough to play for any team, but I do like taking the game seriously and playing in a competitive format. So I want to play in pugs, but I think it's a great opportunity for people to meet each other, get to know each other. It's a great space for new players to make a name for themselves, and it's also, I can't wait to see when the game fully comes out, and pugs with like players from all the top teams. Like, I think that would be really great for Twitch content and VODs as well. So I do hope that happens, but right now all the teams are just so try hard that they just scrim all the time, and if they're not scrimming, then they're just pubbing. So there's no in between, apparently.
Yeah,
pug if they're pugs.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah. So maybe that's something that we should try to do. I don't know if it's us here on the show or just generally in the community, and let's try to get a place or some kind of, whether it's Discord, or it's probably going to be Discord, honestly, and just get a lot of people together, because I can tell you 3 or 4 players I know are really, really good that are in this boat, where it's just like they have no teams, they don't know how to even get in touch with people to even potentially build a team or that sort of thing. And I feel like it needs to be more open, especially if we're going to have an environment where we do have 50 to 100 teams in each region. Like that has to, organically, for it to happen, it's going to take a lot longer than if we have something in place that will help facilitate that.
Well, it's weird with this game. It's like individual skill isn't the greatest factor.
Right.
It's all about teamwork.
Right. So meeting people, being able to, just get a chance to work with or at least play with them a lot and kind of have some synergy together is super important.
Yeah, I can't really help with how to find a team because I found my team
Yeah,
and the people.
yeah, I
before
can
even
understand
got
if you
into
don't
it.
help out with it, man. I totally get that. Well, why don't we take some questions, guys? Just do some Q&A here. Those of you that have not tweeted, the best way to actually have us ask questions is to tweet to the Overview GG. But if you haven't tweeted, go ahead and ask it in the Twitch chat too. We'll take some questions there. Maybe Ben, keep an eye on Twitch chat while I
Sure, yeah,
look
I'll
at,
take a look at Twitch.
Yeah.
I did, before we just jump into Q&A,
Okay, sure.
I just want to take a short moment to give a big shout out to Prime for their performance this
Okay,
weekend.
yeah.
They ended up beating Flat Earth 2-1, and Flat Earth right now is looking extremely strong in Europe, almost making a case for being kind of number 2 behind IDDQD. So seeing Prime beat Flat Earth was a huge shock to me. I don't think anyone was broadcasting the matches, unfortunately. I don't know if there's any VODs to catch, but that was like a huge upset as far as I'm concerned. And then they took you guys, Cloud9, to 3 maps. So Surefour, do you think that this was like a big upset, or have you been seeing them scrim and they've actually been this good for a while? Because to me it seemed like a massive upset.
They're getting better, yeah. Our map 3 was basically tie first round, and then the second map we won. That was like the Ghost of Gamers rule. Apparently, a tie makes it 1-1.
Right.
That rule.
What happened on the first map against us is they did a death ball with May, and we tried the double Genji thing on Dorado, and they did good things stopping us, and I got hit by May icicles in the head like 3 times down the choke. So they full held us, and then we full held them, and then second map was Nepal. But their teamwork's getting better, and they're gonna be a good team to keep grinding it out.
Yeah, man, I was super impressed. Actually, another question from Chad, and something else I wanted to bring up about a breakout performance we saw this weekend was the Life of Hanzo, which is a new mixed team comprised of Dummy, Mesrar, Dehang, ID, AZK, and one more that I'm forgetting right now. They did really well too. That was basically the bottom line. And I think it's an interesting mix too, because you've got Quake guys, you've got TF2 guys, you've got a former Counter-Strike pro player. And the question was asked, is Swag still going to play for the team? You know, Swag was with the roster, but Durs is the other guys. Thank you, Bagelberry in chat. But apparently has been dropped. So I don't have any insider information for you guys, but I heard directly from Dummy that this is their roster. You know, this is the team that they just formed pretty recently, like the last week or so. They really impressed me too. I think this team has a ton of potential. What do you think, Surefour?
Yeah, we've been.
You scrimmed them a bunch.
Yeah, we scrimmed them a bit, and they're getting good too. I think as every team starts getting their rosters finalized, and as everyone's teamwork start getting solidified, I think the games are going to be much closer.
Awesome. Okay, I have a question for you, and I'm going to just let you guess who this question's from. So it says, ask Surefour how his wizard hat looks like. Need to get the same one.
I'm guessing that's from Pluppy, and
Exactly.
I have a really good wizard hat. Just keep dreaming.
Keep
Dreaming, Pluppy.
Yep, exactly. You got it.
All right,
Hope
Broder's
you can
asking.
get one the day that someone beats IDDQD.
Oh, okay.
I think that kind of goes along with how I answered FishStix. I think as people's teamwork starts getting solidified, and depending on how the meta is shifted, I think the games are going to get a lot closer, and we'll see if they get beaten.
Okay.
Yep. Question from Broder in chat, one of the Ghost of Gamers admins. With the changes to Temple of Anubis, is that map now good, or does it still need more changes?
Yeah.
Or is the fact that it's capture point that's holding it back? And I guess let's broaden that question to, what about capture point? We saw it a couple more times this weekend. What do you think, Surefour? As a player, what do you think?
I don't think anyone liked capture points, because on most of all of them, there's only like one choke for first point that you have to get through. So you can just like eat spam or try and get through there. And then if sometimes you get the first point, you can just like instantly cap the second point off of alt advantage. So it's like really hit or miss how those control points go. So I don't think anyone likes it really.
Yeah, from a player's perspective, I can see why it's frustrating. We did have a game decided by 2 seconds
Yeah.
I saw that
on
one.
Yeah.
Volskaya, though.
Yeah.
As a caster, that gets me hype. Not gonna lie. So,
But
I
it was
don't know.
also like 3-minute matches each, weren't
Yeah.
they?
That's true.
That doesn't matter from a,
That's true.
from a spectator point of view. That matters a little bit less, I think.
Yeah, I think it's as long as it's exciting. It doesn't matter if it's like super long or super short.
Now, was the double Genji comps fun to watch?
Not really. Not really. Not really. Especially when it's just
I
like,
love seeing their perspective of a Zenyatta sitting on the payload for 3 minutes.
yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really great. Here's a question. What type of game format would you like to see?
Game format?
Yeah, can you think of a game format you'd still like to see in Overwatch that that's not here, like King of the Hill or that sort of thing?
Oh, you mean like game type?
Yeah, game type.
Hide
I
and
don't
seek.
think hide and seek.
Hide
Some
and
stealth
seek.
characters in there.
Yes, hide and seek.
I don't know. It's
That
hard
would
to
be-
think of a game type I would want in this on the spot that would kind of fit in with Overwatch.
I mean, anybody. This question's to anybody.
I'm gonna put money on the fact that there will be a game mode that incorporates Doomfist at some point.
What's
It
Doomfist?
seems like such a.
What's Doomfist?
Remember the initial cinematic trailer they made? They're in the museum and they're fighting over the Doomfist relic, and the kid puts it on and like
Oh.
punches somebody. It's basically like a big part of the lore. A lot of the maps have a lot of it included, and the idea is like multiple different people have worn the Doomfist at different times. So I have a sneaking suspicion there's going to be some kind of game mode that comes out with some sort of item,
You have to
the
grab-
Doomfist item
Mhm.
that like makes you super powerful or something. I don't know. That's my guess.
Or something where you have to grab the Doomfist and hold onto it, and if you die, you
Yeah,
drop
something
it.
like
Oh my
that,
god,
yeah.
like
Oh,
Halo
that
Oddball.
would be awesome.
That would be
yes.
awesome.
That would be.
Could be cool.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if
totally
they
love
did?
that.
I know Surefour used to play WoW, right?
No.
No?
No.
Was someone on your team used to play WoW?
Adam and
Several.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was
Adam
Adam.
was a
So,
top PvPer, and he's
yeah,
the
if you
leader
ever
of the
did
guild
like
Vodka.
Ashran or anything like that in the newest expansion, there was like this thing that you carried around that like showed like made your whole model massive, so everyone could see where you were basically, and it had this like icon above your head, but it increased your like strength by like 300% or something like that. So, you like if you killed that person, then you gained that buff. And then,
Kinda
if
like
someone
quad
killed you,
damage.
then they got it. Yeah, like over and over again. I think that would be hilarious just to see like a 50-foot Genji running around the map with like just like extra power or whatever.
What do you think? Do you think capture the flag or any of those type of game types will ever be interesting or viable in the overview? Or I mean, not Overwatch. Not the Overwatch.
I think
Overwatch.
Jeff touched on those before, and he said they weren't that good because then everyone just played Tracer.
Yeah.
They'd have to put some kind of just maybe certain characters are the only ones that can get flags. I don't know.
They could do something like King of the Hill, except it's 3-point capture control. So then you have to capture and hold out of 3 points, and whoever gets to like 500 points wins, or something like that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
wish they changed.
That should be
The one
interesting.
thing I wish they would change about control point right now is that if the point is being contested, then it like the percentage would stop going up.
You mean on King of the Hill?
Yeah,
Yeah.
control point. King
Yeah,
of
I
the
think I mean, I guess that brings up a good point. What do you think about game types that would cause for a completely different type of gameplay? 5 tracers or 6 tracers. Is that a bad thing? Do you guys view that as a bad thing for Overwatch?
I mean,
6 tracers on anything is a bad thing.
Well, I know, but do you know what I mean? It's
trying
kind of
to
like
imagine casting that. Like, oh dear
I know.
God, that
I know what
sounds
you mean by that. I'm just kind
difficult.
of. It might be interesting to see. Not every map played like so similar. It's like it'd be analogous to like StarCraft, like where not every game and map is played in a very similar fashion. It'd be like there would be some maps that are just where you're super close spawn points, and they would force you to play differently. Same thing with like Overwatch. Like it would be a completely different type of game type, and your team would have to be versatile enough to like your support players would have to be really good shooters and stuff like that too, to be able to be successful in competitive Overwatch.
I mean, I could do 6v6 Tracer. I think I could be the best Tracer in that.
nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
StarCraft
Speaking
is
of which,
1v1 as well.
There was the video the
Yeah.
other day that was released, right? Where you did 1v1 Tracer versus, who was it, Mendo, I think?
Yeah, we did NA server, EU server, and then Asia server.
Yeah, that was cool.
What was the score? What was the score?
I won 2-1. But
Nice.
he had 400 ping on the Asia server.
Oh
so
my god.
How much
I
did you
wouldn't
have?
say it
That's
was fair.
terrible.
I had like 200 or something like that.
Oh my
But-
gosh, that's impressive, man.
It was rigged because on any server I have 60 ping, and on his EU server he had like 24 or something. So it's like he had home field advantage for sure on that one.
Okay.
You still
well,
won.
we'll have to settle this at LAN, okay,
Yeah,
guys?
definitely.
That's what Mendo keeps saying.
happening.
We're doing it on LAN.
Whenever the first LAN tournament happens, we're gonna have a 1v1.
Yeah,
all right?
that's exhibition. That
forward
sounds
to it.
fun, man. That definitely sounds fun. Okay, maybe one or two
Yep.
more questions. Anybody got any last minute questions here? Let's see.
There's another question about maps and the competitive viability of the CP maps. I'm curious to just hear your guys' thoughts. Like, if none of the competitive players like playing these maps, should we just eliminate them from from the tournaments? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. If it's still in, I think people will just keep banning it, and or some players will try and force people onto those maps. But I guess it's fine to just keep them and force players to learn how to play on them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I mean, eventually
30
there
second
will.
Volskaya games incoming.
What was that?
30-second Volskaya games
Oh,
incoming.
gosh. Yeah, yeah. I mean, at some point we'll have just too many maps, and there'll have to be some map selection. It'll be naturally, I guess, removed from meta anyways, just because nobody will ever pick them. Okay, well, I think we should probably wrap up. Here we go. One last thing. Oh, we already answered that one. Never mind. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up. Maybe do some shout-outs, and then, we'll just call it a day. So, Surefour, you got any shout-outs or thank yous you want to do?
Shoutouts to Cloud9 and all the amazing sponsors. And shoutouts to my teammates and fans that might have been watching.
Awesome. All right, Shayed?
You got to stream too, right?
Yeah, he does have a stream. Yeah.
I'll probably be streaming after this at just Surefour, Twitch TV/Surefour.
Yeah, we'll definitely host that one. And follow him on Twitter, too. His Twitter's on the overlay, too.
At C9.Surefour.
That's right. Gotta get used to plugging, man. That's gonna be... You're gonna have the sponsor
That's
list.
what I
Soon you're gonna have to,
Interesting.
you have to rattle off the sponsor
Yeah, you're gonna have
list.
the sponsor list soon. Shayed, you wanna go next?
Just shout out to you guys for being awesome and here almost every week. I think we've had like 1 week off where we took a break, but
Mhm.
like I said before, this is like one of the most fun parts of my week is hanging out with you guys and talking about the game and everything. So shout out to you guys. And my stream, love my stream every day, 8 a.m. PST, super early in the morning, lots of coffee required. So
Which is
yeah.
twitch.tv/
Shayed_.
Shayed_. FishStix.
Another cool show. Thanks to Surefour for joining us today and answering some of our questions about the meta. I might be taking my first week off of casting in a while as I'm heading to South by Southwest tomorrow, as long as I feel a little bit better in the morning, hopefully. If not, maybe I will be casting again. But make sure to tune in the tournaments, support the competitive scene if you're interested in learning more. Definitely give us all a follow. We're all going to be tweeting and streaming and doing all those things about competitive Overwatch. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a patch that tunes down Zenyatta pretty soon, and maybe that'll happen before the next big tournament. But just stay tuned because there's a whole lot more to come. I said this during the cast, but it just kind of gets me giddy to think about this game after launch because things have been going really well. The tournaments have been exciting, fun. There's, despite dominant metas coming in and maybe making the game seem a little bit one-dimensional at times, I've had a lot of fun casting. I think we've seen great games, and I just can't wait to see massive tournaments with dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of teams signing up. And I'm quite positive that will be the future of this game. So I'll be there with you guys. And we'll see you next week for another episode.
Yep, I'm thinking next week there's probably going to be a lot of things we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in next
Maybe.
week. We've got
winky
some,
face.
Yeah, some stuff we got to talk about. But In the near future, in April too, I think we're gonna have some pretty cool episodes planned for you too. We'll probably have some more news on that in the coming week too. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching the show. Thanks for Surefour for coming on, being our guest, and
Thanks for having me.
of course, FishStix and Shayed for doing this with me every week. It's so awesome, and we just always talk about Overwatch like a million, like just constantly like offline. So it's
Yeah, we're
it's
huge
always
nerds.
great.
It's great.
Our Skype chat is never ending.
Yeah, totally. And you can find the VODs for this, guys, for the overview at youtube.com/ChanManV. I'll have them up soon, as well as the audios, which you can find on iTunes. And if you do on iTunes, guys, be sure to leave a rating only if you like the show. Just leave a rating only if you like the show, and then leave comments because that helps the SEO on iTunes. And yeah, just follow the channel and all that good stuff. If you like Hearthstone, I have a Hearthstone show I do on Wednesdays, Value Town, that you can check out too tomorrow. But that's going to be it for the overview. So for Surefour, Shayed, FishStix, and myself, we'll see you next week. Later.
Bye.
Bye bye.